Those of you who were with me yesterday know that we focused on the problem of egocentricity, and in my view, you can't really talk about one without talking about the other at some point. But we're going to enter sociocentric thinking at the most fundamental level. We're going to carefully work our way forward. There are many things that we won't figure out today. There are many things that we won't be able to do with this concept. But what we want to do is begin to ask some basic questions. And so let me just start with our purpose. First, to better understand our sociocentric nature. Two, to begin to see its pervasiveness in human life. And three, to consider some of the important implications of this problem in human thought. Now, I'm going to focus on why I think we are sociocentric. So I'm not presupposing that you're already there, so we'll focus on that, the concept, and laying the groundwork for understanding that we are in fact highly sociocentric as human animals. Here are the questions that we're going to be focusing on. These will be in the background of our thinking throughout the day. One, what is sociocentricity? Two, what is its relationship with egocentricity? Three, how does sociocentric thought impede human rationality and keep us from developing as rational persons? And four, how can we begin to emancipate our minds from these forces and live as persons of free will? Let me begin with a kind of definition of sociocentric thought, and then we'll, as I say, work our way forward. This is the way I see this problem, this barrier in human thought. Sociocentric thinking is a native human tendency to see the world from a narrow and biased group-centered perspective, to operate within the world through subjective and partial group beliefs, group influences, group rules, group think, group interests. And you might add group taboos. Now, what I'm arguing is that we have inherent in us these tendencies toward conformity. I'm arguing that we're pre-wired to fit ourselves into groups, and because of that, there are some inherent negative implications that we cannot avoid unless we intervene in the mind. And no matter what we do to intervene, like egocentric thought, we will always have these tendencies to want to fit in, to want to be accepted, to want to be part of the group. So in other words, humans are herd animals. We run in packs. And because of that, there are certain structures inherent in every group. For example, in every group, there are some things that you must do. There are social rules. There are some things that you cannot do. We will not allow you to do. Those are taboos. And there's some things that are okay. We don't really care if you do. We don't really care if you don't. They're fine. Think about it logically. Can do, can't do, must do. Now, one thing I want you to think about is, I want you to ask this question again as we move through the day. Can we document in human life problems that if we gather them all together, we could call them sociocentricity? So can we find people behaving in groups in the ways that I am arguing that they do? So in every group that you belong to, you have rules. You have these taboos. You have things you can do. For example, in this room right now, there are some things that we cannot do. There are lots of things we cannot do. And some of those things that we cannot do are because of the law. we used the example yesterday. We may as well get it out on the table because it's my favorite example. Nudity. So we cannot take our clothes off right now. I mean, just to let you know that. It's kind of cool in here. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You probably don't want to quite yet, but it will get warmer. So you cannot take your clothes off in this room. That is because of the law, and laws come out of social ideologies, social belief systems that are often arbitrary. Now, I'm not saying that every taboo, everything that you cannot do, is something you should be able to do. Another thing you cannot do is you cannot walk over to someone else and just slap them across the face, because we won't allow that in this room. But in some groups, that's allowed. Correct? We probably wouldn't use a lot of profanity in here, although one or two swear words we could probably get away with. There's certain kinds of clothing that we cannot wear in this situation. That's an arbitrary set of rules. So that I can't come in with a mini skirt and a ponytail and or a ballet outfit that I couldn't get away with. Even if everything else about my presentation were precisely the same. And there's a code for your dress as well. So there's certain things that you could probably get away with wearing, some things that I might not be able to get away with as a presenter. So ask yourself the question, can we come up with examples like the ones I'm giving to support this argument that we are largely sociocentric, we largely fit ourselves into groups, and because of that, there are implications, both good and bad, for our life here as humans. So we want to have codes that make sense. We want to ultimately create, and this is why we do this work, critical societies. Societies where people debate and discuss what makes sense to do and believe.